So before we start, we'll start with some housekeeping items. First of all, please be sure to keep yourself muted so we can keep the sound quality clear. Also, do know that this webinar is being recorded and the recording will be supplied to all attendees after that. Please refrain from sharing personal information. This chat is accessible to all attendees, and any personal details you share will be visible to everyone. And here on the screen, you can see the agenda for today. I will start with introducing our guests, our speakers today.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Then we will cover the family support and benefits navigation programs. After that, we'll be talking about behavioral health or counseling services. We'll cover the Georgia Community Trust, and you will have 15 minutes to ask your questions. For the speakers, let's welcome Anna Mackey, who is Director of Program Services here at BDI, Anita Gardner, who's Manager Trust Services, and we have Brandon Printup, who is Clinical Director here in Empowers. And I'll leave each of the speakers introduce themselves. Anna?
Sure. Hi, I'm Anna Mackey. I'm the Director of Program Services at BDI, and I was going through the participant list. I know a lot of y'all, so we got a lot of friends and family here today. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. So what we're going to talk about today is a lot of wonderful information to share with you regarding all of our services and to kick off a bunch of webinars in the future. So there's a lot more to come, but you can see my background here. So I have a legal background and a clinical background, but quite frankly, my greatest credibility comes from being a mom. So I have a 30-year-old with autism and intellectual disability and bipolar and all kinds of good stuff. And he has been my inspiration and my best teacher in life. So I'm looking forward to sharing about programs with you and how we can support you, and hope that y'all have the opportunity to have a wonderful life just like my son does. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Good morning, Anita.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's awesome to be here. I'm super excited about this new webinar series that we're kicking off today. I do know some of the people in the queue here, which is super awesome, and I hope to know almost all of you in the near future. I started with Bobby Dodd in 2014 and have been ever since. I worked as Trust Services Manager. When my daughter was diagnosed when she was 2.5 with autism, I dove into the disability community saying, I want to know anything and everything I can, excuse me, I can learn. And I also didn't add this piece, but I grew up living right next door to 3 wonderful boys. As they played baseball and other sports in their backyard, I could always see them through my window, one in a wheelchair and the others were not. But they were a powerful crew, and they showed me that all sports were so inclusive of everyone. And today they are Ironmen. Just gonna say, just shows how powerful inclusion can be. Great to see you guys.
Thank you, Anita. And then let's meet Dr. Brandon Printup.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon Printup. Today, I hope to get to know everybody, and then today we want to talk to y'all about like our clinical services. We're fairly new to the clinical service arena, and one of the things that we do, and you're enrolled today, is that we kind of tell you like our approach. And one of our biggest things is our uniqueness. And so for my background, I have over probably 15 to 20 years of experience, especially with behavioral modification, behavior management, and most of my previous background would be like dealing in residential hospital type settings. And then also my background is I specialize in traumas and also to family systems. So that's me.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all the speakers. And now I'll give the microphone to Anna, who will be introducing you to all the BDI programs, especially family support and benefits navigation. Anna, feel free to share your screen.
Thank you. Can y'all see all this? Making sure this works. So y'all should be able to see the list of our core BDI programs. So we have a number of different programs, and part of that is because we want to try to be able to meet as many needs as possible. I know when I was still trying to figure out services for my son, I felt like I had to go to so many different places and talk to so many different people. It felt like archaeology, like I was just trying to dig up information here and there and here and there. And what we're trying to do at BDI is to try to centralize as much information as possible to provide supports to you to make this is a journey that you're on, that you're not alone in this journey. And so by taking advantage of the programs that we have at BDI, we're hoping to be able to partner with you and partner with other groups to make sure that you have the appropriate services. So the programs that we have include behavioral health, as you heard Dr. Printup just speak about this morning. This is a new program that we're launching. I think we can all agree that there aren't as many behavioral health resources in our community as there needs to be. And this is an ongoing challenging finding supports, particularly behavioral supports for folks. Family support services. This is a keystone service. This is one of the services that we try to maximize because it can be a gateway to other services. Benefits navigation. This is my baby. This is the program that I started back in 2016, and we've served so many families because it's hard to try to figure out all these things that happen, especially when your loved one is turning 18 and you're thinking about guardianship and Social Security and what is this thing called a now comp waiver. It can be so overwhelming. So part of the goal of these programs is to reduce that stress for you, to empower you so that you can navigate all of these different programs and services with the support that you need. Work incentive planning and assistance. This is a contract with Social Security Administration. So this is when you are a Social Security beneficiary and you want to work. That's sort of a scary proposition. So how do you work and manage your benefits? Well, you really need a work incentive counselor. So there are 3 work incentive planning and assistance providers in Georgia. BDI is one of those. We serve 54 counties. If you are a Social Security beneficiary and you're interested in working, or you have a job and you're not sure how those earnings are impacting your benefits, you would call the Ticket to Work helpline to get a referral. But yes, BDI is one of 3 of those providers here in Georgia. Jobs and Career Services. This is a program that has a range of services. So we have programs like GROW, which is a wonderful, and I really wish that we'd had this when my son was younger. Again, transition aged pre-employment training. So GROW offers a summer experience for individuals, sort of like a week-long work/life skills camp type experience. So that falls under Jobs and Career Services. Most commonly, when you think about Jobs and Career Services, you're thinking about supported employment. So this is where we work very closely with vocational rehabilitation services and work with families to develop that service plan and identify those ideal working conditions for jobs and help ensure the appropriate placement as well as the appropriate maintenance support for that position. And then the Georgia Community Trust. So the Georgia Community Trust is one of 2 pooled trusts in Georgia, and Anita's here to share more information about that. But as you're doing your life care planning, and if your individual is going to need Medicaid throughout their life, then you're probably going to need a Georgia Community Trust to help safeguard those funds to help you maintain that Medicaid eligibility. So these are our core programs. I'm going to kick off and talk about family support and benefits navigation. So let's jump in with family support. So what is family support? So again, this is one of the key services that individuals need to be maximizing. Back in the day, I used family support services for respite because I needed a break. He needed a break. I used family support to help my son in his taekwondo program so that he could experience some activities in the community. So family support has a lot of different types of services, but it's a wonderful, wonderful service to maximize. If you have an individual, a loved one with disabilities, and you're looking at planning their future, one of the things that they're going to need is services. I always say that every adult, they need three things. They need some form of income, they're going to need some level of health insurance, and they're going to need some level of services. And so when I'm working with especially transition aged individuals turning 18, that's why Social Security is so important, because that's the income and the health insurance. But what about services? So services are typically begin with family support services. When you think about services, you're looking at what are all the supports that my individual is going to need in order to live the good life, in order to be included in the community and have the supports that they need for independent living at home. So when you're thinking about supports, you're looking at what agencies are providing support. So we mentioned Job and Career Services. That's through the Department of Labor, the Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency. So those types of services, if you're thinking about work services, you're thinking about GVRA and Department of Labor type services. But when you're thinking about services in the home and other services in the community, you're really thinking Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities Services. So that's what Family Support Services is. This is a program that is overseen ultimately by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, the DBHDD in short. How it works is it's a brokerage service. So the DBHDD has funding that is granted through our state. So this is a state-funded program. So every year the governor has his budget, the state legislature signs off on the budget, and they earmark funds for the DBHDD. Part of which, one line item, is family support services. So then DBHDD divides those funds up across providers throughout the state. So every individual in any county in Georgia is going to have access to a family support services provider. There are multiple providers. There are 6 regions, and got 159 different counties, but everybody has a family support services provider. BDI is one of many family support services providers, and we're one of a handful of providers in Region 3. So the counties that we're able to serve include Fulton, Gwinnett, DeKalb, Clayton, and Rockdale. So if you're not in one of those counties, then you would seek another family support provider, and that list of providers is on the DBHDD website. But if you're not in one of BDI's counties and you need access to a family support provider and you can't find that information, just send us an email and we'll provide you with the list of that provider. So everybody has an opportunity to pursue family support services. Here's the thing about family support services is it's a limited amount of funding. And so when we operate on a fiscal year basis, July 1 to June 30th. So July 1, there's a lot more funding available than there is by the end of the fiscal year. So BDI has a pretty good history of exhausting our funding. You never want to leave money on the table, but we tend to exhaust money by the end of the third quarter. So it's really important for you to make sure that you're aware of kind of where we are, that you're having communication with your support coordinator to make sure that funding is available, because it's not guaranteed. How do we determine how much funding is available for you? That's going to be based on what your needs are. So when we talk about family support services, we're really talking about a level of need based on what is presented. So if you are in a crisis situation, have a high level of urgent needs, then you may need a higher level of supports through intensive family support. If everything is, going okay, there's just the status quo of living life with the challenges of a disability, then you're probably on the traditional family support side of things, where you're receiving services to, again, help you live more independently and to access the community. So there are eligibility requirements for family support services, and what we encourage you to do is to make sure that you have the appropriate documentation. Before you submit your application, double check your documentation. Do you have a psychological evaluation from the school? Do you have a school IEP? And IEPs are good documentation, but they're not really the best documentation, because what happens when you provide an application of family support to BDI, we in turn send that application to the DBHDD for review. So ultimately, it's the DBHDD that's approving your family support services application, and they're doing that based on whether or not you're meeting these eligibility criteria. So, and Bobby, this is a great opportunity for us to do a poll in just a minute. One of the things that we want to make sure is that individuals with family support, if you're eligible for a now comp waiver, that you're on the planning list, because part of your strategy for wanting to have family support services is, first, it's always good to have services, right? But secondly, if you're on the now comp planning list, then this is a great opportunity for you to show that you're maximizing available resources by maximizing your family support services. So if we're asking for a now comp waiver, hey, DBHDD, I need that higher level of service. I need that waiver. And they're going to come back and go, but are you using family support services? If your answer is no, you're just being sent right to a provider like BDI to help you get started with that process. So what we want as a goal for this year is to make sure that everybody that is receiving family support services, that we know what their status is, that we know if they're eligible for a now comp waiver or if they're not eligible, because it is a slightly higher standard to be eligible for a now comp waiver. But we want everyone, especially everyone who is receiving that higher level of family support services, to be on the now comp planning list. Because the goal ultimately, when you're thinking about this life journey and you're thinking about that life care plan, you're starting with family support services. Like, you can start with family support as early as age 3, right? But that's a long journey until adulthood. What happens at age 22 when they age out? You need a higher level of services, right? So we want to make sure that we're providing the maximum amount of services, but also setting people up for success over the course of their journey by making sure they're eligible and on the planning list for that higher level of services. So theoretically, individuals that are receiving our highest level of services would be transitioning from family support into a waiver, right? So this is all about services to help maximize your quality of living. The eligibility requirements, you need to have an intellectual disability or a developmental disability. And for now comp eligibility, then what you're looking at is the severity and impact. So we're looking at an intellectual disability is defined as a full-scale IQ score of below 70. If you have a condition like autism, my son had autism. It's a condition closely related to an intellectual disability. It's a developmental disability. What if his full-scale IQ was in, the 70s or 80s? Would he still be eligible for now comp? The answer is yes, so long as his adaptive function score is below 70. This is why your documentation is so essential. This is why making sure that you have current documentation to make sure that you have a clear understanding of your child's current level of function is so important. So let's talk a little bit about the types of services. What we see is a broad range of services. And what happens when you're applying for family support and you're approved, we're going to have you go through what's called a level of need assessment. So we want to make sure that we are identifying what you need, like what are those core needs that are bubbling to the top. And that could be specialized medical supplies. That's one of the top services that are most frequently used in family support. It might mean that you need a break. So respite means that you're taking a break. I needed to send my guy to camp for a week. Bye, love you, bye. But that was respite for him, respite for me. You might need some support in home with activities of daily living. You might need some support to identify activities in the community for your loved one to be part of, like adaptive swimming or music therapy or fill in the blank. Summer camps. What are these activities in the community that are going to be helpful for your child to learn and grow? So there's a lot of different services, but again, it's going to be based on your need. Here's a wonderful snapshot of the process. So it begins with going, oh yeah, I think family support services would be a good fit for me. So I'm going to complete the family support application. It's available on our website. So you can just go to our website, click on that application and get started. What do you need in order to apply? Is you need to have some documents, especially that document that's going to show your eligibility. So make sure that you are doing your due diligence and identifying, finding that psychological evaluation and other documentation to show what that condition is. So you're providing that information to us. We're going to pre-screen everything, send it to the DBHDD, and then takes a little bit of time for the DBH to review the application. Once we get that approved, then we're going to be able to kind of get down to work a little bit. So what happens once your application is approved? Two things need to happen. We need to develop an individual support plan, and we're developing that plan based on that determination of needs assessment. So remember that assessment that helps us identify what you really, really need. Like we all need a lot, but what is it that you really need? So we're going to hone it down to those core needs and develop a plan around that. From there, you're going to receive information from your support coordinator that includes vendor information, so you know who our providers are. Remember, we're the middleman. So we're working with the DBHDD to get you approved and get access to funding, and then we're working with vendors who are actually going to be delivering those services, right? So how that works is we have approved vendors. And so we'll send that list to you so that you can see, okay, these are the providers for dental services, or these are the providers for respite services. So you look at what service you have provided, and then you select a vendor from there. From that point on, we're going to be coordinating with you and the vendor and making sure that you're receiving the services. We're going to try to check in with you at least once a quarter to make sure everything is going well, make sure that we're maximizing all needs and that no significant changes have happened and that things are going smoothly. So that's how the family support process works. It's pretty sweet. Now I'm going to shift gears to talk about benefits navigation. So benefits navigation, again, this is a program that we began back in 2016. This is my labor of love program because I found it really difficult. I felt so overwhelmed when my son was turning 18. I felt like I need to get his trust set up. I need to get his Social Security. I need to make sure that I'm doing everything that I need to do. Guess what? I didn't know about family support services until he was 20. Oh my gosh. I still feel a little bitter that I missed so much opportunity to have services. So again, it's a very overwhelming process. So BDI's benefits navigation is here to help ease that struggle, help you get a good night's sleep, give you some peace of mind. So our core services, I'd say about 80% of what we're doing these days is tied to Social Security. So we do initial applications, we help with appeals, we're seeing a spike in overpayment cases. So we do a lot of things tied to Social Security. Also really big this year with Medicaid unwinding starting in April. Everybody's going through a Medicaid redetermination, and they're having challenges with Gateway and getting booted off of this and getting booted off of that. It's challenging. So we're here to help you manage that process of Medicaid reinstatement as well. Another big chunk of what we do is assistance with the Now Comp waiver advocacy. So we want to make sure, again, that everybody in family support is on that Now Comp planning list. And so this might be a great opportunity to do that poll. So Bobby, can you help me with the poll?
The poll is in the chat.
It's in the chat. Okay.
Yeah, we already have some people submitted and we have the results there.
Awesome. Wonderful. So let me see if I can toggle back. Let's take a look at that. Yeah. I'll look at that afterwards. I'm just not able to manage my screen with that. But thank you for completing that poll, because that's going to give me a lot of information about how we might be able to help you more. One of the things that I did want to let you know is I have 150 slots available to help with waiver advocacy if you are currently a BDI family support participant. So if you're in BDI Family Support Services and you need some help with waiver advocacy, I might be able to help you with that through one of these level of need assessments that we do. I would say when we're helping with folks, like, why are we so successful with our Social Security applications? Because the national average is 35% and ours is more like 70%. That's double. Why? It's because of documentation. So a lot of disabling conditions, Social Security is looking at the impact, and your medical documentation may not show impact. So BDI has developed 3 different assessments to help us show severity and impact. And we use these assessments for both Social Security assistance and for Now Comp waiver advocacy. So again, if you are a BDI participant in family support and you would like some assistance with either Now Comp advocacy or with Social Security, I need you to send me an email. So the first 150 people that send me an email, we might be able to work with you to provide those services. And then life care planning. So life care planning, it all has to begin with life care planning. I call it a benefits map. And so when I work with you, I'm trying to figure out where you are and where do you need to be. And so that process of developing a map is going to address a lot of these issues. Social Security, again, because we're talking about we need Social Security income and health insurance, and then services, family support, Now Comp waiver, or there are other waiver programs that might be appropriate. So we need to look to see what's right for you. Is it Now Comp? Is it an independent care waiver? What do we need to be looking at? So this life care planning process is designed to make sure that you're going through with a checklist of things that you're going to need over the course of the lifetime. So that's the core purpose of Benefits Nav. So how does that work? If you're already receiving family support services, all you need to do is add financial assistance and life planning as a goal. Confirm that with your support coordinator, and then we're able to set up an initial consultation. So again, I do have 150 slots now that we're at the beginning of the fiscal year to help individuals with benefits navigation services. So let me know if that's something that is interested for you. And again, these adaptive function assessments can be used for Social Security, they can be used for Now Comp advocacy, and they can be part of your life care plan. And I think that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, good day, everyone. My name is Brandon Prentup. I'm the Director of Clinical Services for Bobby Dodd Empowers. One of the great things about our program is it is very innovative and it's very unique. And we pride ourselves on our unique approach to just dealing with comorbidities to like our specific populations, the IDD, DDD population, and mental health. And so one of the things we do, and we specialize in that, is uniqueness, because nobody else in the state is like doing this approach. And also too, it's a holistic approach. And the reason why it's holistic is because at Bobby Dodd, we believe in like a collaborative approach. And so what I mean with collaborative approach is that with our behavioral health services, you're connected to benefits navigation, trust, employee services, and also family support services. And that's important because with our population, we want to make sure that our people get everything linked, and we provide them that approach for a lifetime. And so it's not like we're not a one-stop shop, because it's very important that everybody's needs are met, whether it's through behavioral health, through his navigation, through his family support. And we want to make sure that we connect them through all the resources and make sure that this is a long-term journey. And so in behavioral health, we offer services, and we use a diverse funding stream of services, whether you have family support and then whether you are on the private insurance panels. For as far as most of the commercial insurance panels, like Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Anthem, we are on those panels, and we use everything through our simple practice system. And so we are a paperless approach to like services, so we don't take any money or anything up front. So everything is paperless. And so it's important for people to understand our approach, is because most people think of counseling as like using cognitive behavioral therapy as focusing on like talk therapy and processing and all that. That's not always the case with us. What we want to do is combine everything together and use the family and provide resources to the family and the individual that comes in. So when you're served from a holistic approach where everybody is getting their needs met. And if we can't help you, then we'll connect you to community partners that can assist you with providing those services and resources. So basically, this is kind of like our intended recipients or participants. And so our target audience is individuals that have any type of mental health disorder, IDD, BD. And so we start off at the age of 14, because that's teenage. That's where we see things are most impactful. And so then we go from 14 to the lifespan. So currently right now, our individuals that I would say that we see a lot of are between the ages of like 17 and about 28, those young adults. And so as you can see, these are basically like the populations, as I talked about our co-occurring, and I talked about our intellectual development, and then also too the neurodivergent individuals too. And so our service area is pretty much Metro Atlanta, but we do have the capability for virtual. So virtual is our capability. I have at least 4 people that do virtual that are outside of the metro area. And so we do service clients or individuals that are outside the metro area too. And so one of the things that we're doing that's very unique now is we have coming out in the middle of September, we will be doing a social skills curriculum. And so that'll be based upon 2 tracks, and it'll be separated by sex. So the males will be in one group, and the females will be in another group. And the reason why we're going to do that is because we don't want to have too much stimulus in the group. And so we want to be able to make sure that they're able to function, and we want to provide that support to them too, where they don't have to deal with outside forces and influences. So basically right now, we don't provide psychiatric services or psychological services or nursing services, but we do have access to other people in the community to kind of refer those services to. And so just kind of summarize, our clinical services is a unique approach, and also too, we aim to developing social skills. And so you'll start seeing like information about our social skills group. And even in what I didn't say about the social skills group is that it will be outings involved in that too. So we'll do something as far as going out to eat. We'll be going bowling, like things that help this population. Because what we're seeing now is, like in this population, is that some of our individuals have social skills, but then they isolate themselves. and then they become depressed. And then two, they were like, well, I don't know how to really talk to people. But we're going to make it to where it's easy and comfortable to where we can build a relationship and build rapport.
So I'm going to start off with explaining special needs trust very quick, and then we'll get into a pooled special needs trust. A special needs trust is an irrevocable trust that allows individuals living with a disability to spend excess funds while they continue to receive their benefits. Now let's get into the pooled special needs trust. A major difference between the typical special needs trust, individual one, and a pool trust is that the trust has to be managed by a nonprofit organization. Like all of the assets in the trust are pooled together for investment purposes, but the nonprofit organization manages each subaccount for the beneficiaries. Georgia Community Trust is managed by Bobby Dodd Institute, which provides all of the different programs that Anna was referring to, and Brandon. So this definitely distinguishes us from any other trust organization. What's so special about us? A pooled special needs trust. The pooled special needs trust protects the benefits that the individual is receiving, such as SSI and Medicaid. These crucial programs provide essential support for individuals living with disability, but those programs also have really strict income and asset limitations that we are very familiar with. Having a pooled special needs trust means that SSI and Medicaid will not count those funds as an asset, and the individual can continue to receive their benefits. The availability of these funds supplement expenses such as recreational activities or travel, which would greatly enhance the overall well-being and happiness of the individual. The GCT of BDI team is very up to date on all these changing rules and regulations that that govern Medicaid and SSI. And we understand the disability community and the needs of our beneficiary. Now we're going to go over the types of trusts that we have. First, we have first-party trusts. This means that the account is funded by the individual's own assets. Like if they received a settlement, there's a Medicaid payback provision in each of the first party trusts, meaning when the beneficiary passes away, Medicaid has to be paid back as much as possible. So any funds remaining, they send us a bill and we send them a check. And there are age restrictions on individuals over 65, which they can apply into a pooled special needs trust, but there is early Medicaid payback provision. Our next trusts are third-party trusts. These are commonly, or mostly, they are family members who create a trust for their loved one with special needs and leave property in the trust through their estate plans or their wills or life insurance. Like when a grandparent leaves money in a will to fund the special needs trust, when the funds become available, they go straight to the special needs trust, and there's no Social Security and Medicaid are already aware of the trust, so they know that the funds will go there, and the individual will continue to receive their benefits. The beauty of the third party trust, creating it prior to the account being funded, third party, there's no Medicaid payback provision. So when the beneficiary passes away, the funds go to where they're designated to go in the agreement when the account is created. So let's go over Georgia Community Trust versus individual or for-profit. So for-profit means like attorneys or elder law companies that draft and create individual special needs trusts. And some of these can be super costly. Most of these places have a minimum amount that you have to put into to create the trust, and the fees are typically a lot higher because the administration is only over one account. Because we are a pooled special needs trust, we are administered by nonprofit Bobby Dodd, yay. So we have a large pool of resources, but we have a large pool of resources, but because the investments and all of the funds are invested together, there's a lower administrative fee and a lower investment fee. To ease of funds. So part of the special needs trust is you are reimbursed as you send in receipts for things that you purchase for the individual. So these, once you send in a reimbursement, we pride ourselves on a really quick turnaround, typically 48 hours, to be able to be reimbursed. And over the years, we've kind of created and gained new software so that we have a wide variety of ways to be reimbursement. One being TrueLink cards, which is essentially a credit debit card that uses funds from the individual subaccount that we put onto the card, which is able to be used where the beneficiary even or the trustee of the trust it needs to use or purchase things for the individual. We have direct deposit. Like I said, we have a 48-hour turnaround, which a lot of other organizations take up to 2 weeks. We have ongoing monthly bill payments, and we can pay vendors directly. Yeah, thank you. So in a pooled special needs trust, the funds from multiple beneficiaries are pooled together, like we were talking about it, to create a larger investment portfolio. This means that there's a greater gain because there's more funds invested. Our investment team's goal is to protect the balance of the beneficiary's account and gain enough to cover the fees. We have created options for our families. We had families that were requesting, they had a larger amount of funds and they wanted it to be invested in a higher risk category. And so now we have 3 different investment options that you can choose from, which makes it, much more appealing to families that would like a higher risk or people who would like low risk. And it obviously just depends on what the market does, but you have a choice now, which makes things a lot better. I'm hoping to hear from a lot of you. I think that's my last. Is that my last slide?
Yes. Thank you, Anita. I just want to remind you that if you haven't checked our upcoming episodes, that Anita will have an entire episode entirely focused on the Georgia Community Trust, how to set up one, and what is the difference between first-party and third-party trusts.
Yeah.
So right on time, everyone. So it's time for your questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand or feel free to unmute yourself and ask our speakers. Also on your screen, you'll see contact information for all the speakers today: Anna Mackey, Anita Gardner, and Brendan Frintup. And if you scan the QR code, you'll go to a quick survey just so you can tell us how was your experience with today's webinar, so it can help us get better and provide you with more valuable information in the future. So we're ready for your questions. Wendy Dean, feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Anna, my question is for you. I was actually just about to email you, but with regard to benefits navigation, I understand that if someone is outside of the family support services area, that they pay private pay for that for the benefits navigation service. Can you give some sort of idea as to how, is there a flat rate that's paid, or is that, how do you base that?
Sure. First of all, we want to try to exhaust any other available funding. And one of our goals is to build relationships with other family support services providers so that we can be a vendor. So if an individual has family support in an area not with BDI, then that's a great opportunity to go, hey, my family support provider is, fill in the blank, Macintosh Trail or In Community or whatnot. And that can create the beginning of an opportunity for us to try to become a vendor through them, so then they could use their family support services through that provider. Private pay is always an option as well. So our rates are $150 an hour. So it's not a flat rate, it's an hourly based, fee-based service. So the assessments that I was talking about, that are the very detailed assessments, they come in the form of a 2-hour clinical interview. And so that's going to be $300 for that assessment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And then we have Nancy. Nancy Venter, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, I missed the work planning thing that you have. Do you have a program that helps people with working?
Right. That would be our Jobs and Career Services program. So we weren't highlighting that particular program today. We do have a number of webinars planned. This was sort of our launch kickoff to our programs. So what I would recommend is that you check that list, and let's see what might be missing on that list. Like, I want y'all to look at, like, I know we have a session just for trust. We have a session on behavioral health. We have a session on understanding Medicaid waivers, and a session on applying for Social Security. So there's a number that have already been identified. And I believe there's at least one that's related to job and career services. So we just want to confirm that. But that is going to be the best way for you to kind of deep dive into that program, is through those webinars.
Is there a contact person?
It's on our website.
Okay.
So I think the best thing to do would probably, Bobby, is that the best advice, to go to our website to register for those webinars?
Yes, correct. All the webinars are there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I see one question in the chat. It says, are there programs to help us obtain guardianship?
So let me try to field that one. Guardianship is a tough one, because we really want to make sure that it's the right choice, because guardianship, there's a lot involved, and it does take away a lot of rights of the individual. So before we just jump right into guardianship is the answer, we want to make sure that we want to look at things like a powers of attorney, or facilitated or supported decision making, as well as guardianship as an option. So we do provide, through the benefits navigation program, if you have a loved one who is over the age of 18 and you don't have guardianship and you don't have a power of attorney, we at least need to provide some support to get that power of attorney, so that you can assist with some very important life issues. So you can send us an email. I can send you that power of attorney. If you are a support participant, you can use the financial and life assistance service. We have a couple of law firms on our vendor list who can help with guardianship. You can't use those funds to set up a trust, but you can use those funds to address guardianship.
Thank you. So I don't see any other questions or raised hand here in the chat. I'll proceed to the next slide. This is a QR code that will allow you to register for our upcoming session. And on the left side, you will see all the upcoming episodes. The next one is on August 31st. We'll cover the basics of behavior management with Brendan and Anna. And as Anna pointed, all the links to register for the webinar are on the Bobby Dodd Institute website, which is bobbydodd.org. And you can also follow us on social media. We're pretty active there. We post regular information, and make sure you stay in touch. And you'll be receiving a recording from this episode. Thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of the speakers. Thank you.